What's up, everyone? So you read that title and you're wondering, is that even possible? And I'm going to tell you yes, and I'm going to tell you how to in 10 steps. All right, so number one, critically listen to your source tones. One big tip I can give you right here, super simple, teach your drummer to learn to tune the dang drums. That is one of the biggest issues I see in churches is the drum heads haven't been changed in 21 years and they haven't been tuned in 25 years. I don't know how it's possible, but we found a way in church. So have your drummer learn to tune the drums and then learn to hit them correctly. Hit it in the same spot every time. Don't hit too hard. Don't hit too soft. Just have good solid hits on your drums and don't bash your cymbals like you're trying to kill something. So many of the issues with drums are just overplaying, just hitting the thing so hard, or hitting them like you're afraid of them. So get the drum tone right at the source. That is one of your biggest wins. You don't want to go trying to fix things on the board. You need to have good things that are going to hit your console that you can enhance. You're not trying to just polish something nasty. You know the old saying. And the same goes for guitars and bass. Those guys need to learn that their tones aren't the only things that are going to be heard in the mix. A friend of mine always talks about bedroom tone for guitars that are super distorted. There are tons of bass, low end on them, tons of high end. They just take up the entire frequency spectrum. They're playing power chords the whole time. It doesn't sound good in a mix. It sounds fine on its own when you're jamming by yourself, but that's not what people listen to. They listen to the mix as a whole. So get all those tones right at your source, and you are basically 90% of the way there. Another thing, this one comes with a bit of controversy from drummers especially, but get your stage volume down as low as possible. Kill the bleed and kill the ambience that's on stage. Get your amps off the stage, or at least into an ISO box or something like that. We put ours off the stage in a fully separate room inside an enclosed thing to get it just as isolated as possible. The same goes for bass. Have the bass player even run direct in with an amp sim. If they will let you do that, that will get such a cleaner low end coming off the stage, or have their bass amp as well isolated, or going into an insulated wall or something like that. But the whole point of this is get your stage volume as low as possible. And also, this sort of falls in this section as well. Have your PA shoot in a way that it only hits bodies in the room. You don't want your PA just firing off and hitting the back wooden wall, or firing and just bouncing off the side walls into the crowd. You want to learn where your speakers shoot, like how wide and how high they shoot, and then aim them where they will only hit bodies in the room, so that will just kill so many reflections in your room. And if you have the budget, you don't care to have this on the wall, put some sound panels up. The whole point of all of this is to get the volume down so that whatever comes out of the PA, it's only going to hit the bodies in the room, and it's not going to be bouncing around everywhere and killing just the definition of your mix. And so number 3, tune your sound system using a song that you're super familiar with. Listen to this song on headphones, listen to it in your car, listen to it on your church PA, and really learn what this song sounds like, so that when you play it through your church PA, you know the frequency response you should be hearing, and so you can then EQ your master fader to make it sound right. This will basically help you take out any frequency inconsistencies or anything like that in your room that are going to be problem areas whenever you start playing instruments or voices through your system. Those things will start building up on your mix, and you'll be pulling them out of your vocals, out of your guitars. You'll be pulling those same frequencies out, and it's just not going to help your mix. It'll be okay, you'll be able to maybe balance it, but it's not going to have the definition and the clarity that it could if you tune it well from the start. All right, so number 4, gain staging. And this starts on your channel. On every single channel on your board, set your input gain so that it is averaging out at -18 on each channel. This will give you enough room so that you're above the noise floor of each channel, but you also have enough headroom so that you're not going to be clipping. And then set the volume of your speakers so that you can have all of your faders in and around unity gain at 0. The same for your master fader. All of those faders can be around 0. Of course, you're not going to have a flat mix. That's not possible. But that you're working in that area of the fader where you have definition to work with. You can work in like a few dB increments rather than in like 10 degree increments towards the bottom of the fader, so that your input gain is high enough, your faders are high enough, but you're not blowing the crowd away because you've turned your speakers down enough so you have a good even mix at around unity gain. All right, so number 5. high pass everything on your board except your kick, bass, maybe keyboard or synth bass, instruments that you need that low end on, but high pass everything else. Don't let your guitar player try to convince you that they don't need to be high passed. They do. I like to high pass everything starting at around 80 to 100. It's simple, it's not prescriptive, whatever, but it just works. And let's be real, no one in the seats in your congregation is going to be able to tell that you're not high passed at 80 or that you're high passed at 100. Those are just the safe bets to get all those sub lows out of things that aren't needed in. All right, so number 6, use subtractive EQ and gentle compression. Subtractive EQ is great because it just cleans up the stuff that doesn't need to be there so that the other stuff is enhanced. If you're a beginner, I really would not tell you to start boosting frequencies like crazy. Stop watching the CLA videos and all those where you see them just diming out the high end and the low end. That's not safe for those of us that may not be as experienced, okay? Instead, I would want to see you just pulling out frequencies that are just building up in problem areas, not doing major EQ moves. Just listen to your source tone coming out of your PA and think, is there a little bit too much of the low mids? Is it a little harsh sounding? Think about it those ways, and if it's a little harsh, don't go boosting low end. Pull the upper mids. If it sounds a little muddy like a pillow's over it or something, pull your low mids around 200. Try that first before you go boosting top end. This will keep you from having feedback. It'll save your headroom. It's just a game changer. And so for compression, don't go just slamming every compressor. Try to set each compressor where you're dropping 2, 3, 4 dB and then turn that back up in makeup gain. Those two things right there are gonna get you basically all the way to a solid mix. By having good source tones and then just doing some subtle things on each channel, you're going to just level things out in a way that they still sound natural coming out of the PA. And then my favorite part, as you know if you've watched anything on this channel, add tasteful but subtle effects. I'd love to just have soaring reverbs and things like that. If you're not comfortable with effects and you don't know how to make them sit well in a mix, I would say pull them back. Don't make them just soar out over the top of the mix because it can be very distracting for the congregation. And also, if you're not comfortable with your effects, hit the link in the description for my free reverb cheat sheet where I'll just give you all of my favorite reverb settings that I use every single time I set up. And then number 8, the big one, your faders are your most powerful tool. The balance that you create with your faders is what will set you apart. Not any like trendy mix hack or anything like that. Setting your balances right with your faders is your next big win. If you've done everything else that we've listed so far, you have a pro mix. If you have a good, solid sound coming out of your PA where you're not just having a bunch of reflections in your room, you have your good source tones, and you're able to just subtly work EQ and compression on each channel, this is it. I mean, that's your mix right there. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Having just a solid fader balance from this point on is where you sound like a pro. And then that leads into number 9, ride the faders with the band. This is where it gets fun for you as the mixer because the console becomes your instrument. You have this band up in front of you and you're basically the conductor of the band where you have the power to say, I think that they need to hear more guitar right now. I think that drum fill needs to come up that I know the drummer's about to do because I'm in tune with this band and I know that the drummer's about to do some fill. So I'm going to push up the drums in this section or the vocal, that you're able to ride the vocal so it stays on top of the mix the whole time because you're familiar with your band. And that goes for in the quiet parts when the song is coming down at the end. Turn the keyboard up. Start turning things up whenever the band's energy starts to die, because what will happen is that, yes, the volume may start going down some, but the congregation and those listening will perceive it as staying the same big and full, and it won't feel like that the band just dies off and they're just kind of stopping playing. It'll feel like they're just transitioning into a new part. So you have the power to really make your transitions just go to the next level just by riding your faders. And the same thing goes for the loud parts. If things need to come down a little bit because someone just cranked their volume, pull it back some, but the energy is still there. And then so number 10, possibly the biggest one, do all of this at a volume that is comfortable for your congregation, and that is completely subjective. I know for my church we have a really wide age range. I think that we have a little bit of everyone in our church, honestly, and I really do my best to keep our mixes at you know, a lower dB, whatever it is, between 80 and 90. I don't know exactly what it is. Really, we can still sort of talk in the booth if needed. Obviously, we're trying not to during worship, but you know what I mean. Where the congregation can really sing and engage in a way that's not distracting to the people next to them, but we're not blowing them away. A lot of churches I've been in, they want me to crank it. They want that volume really up. They want the energy level just high. We don't necessarily do that. That it's not really what our people want. So that's one of the bigger tips. Know what your people want to hear, and also know that volume issues a lot of times aren't actually volume issues. Just the other day, I was dialing in our new system, which I'll have some videos coming here soon, and someone that was just sitting in the room, just listening to the band, kind of rehearse, learn the system, get going for the first time, she said, "It's really loud." And I knew that it wasn't actually loud. I just knew that I hadn't dialed in some frequency issues yet. Later, I got those things dialed in, and I just kind of casually said, "How's it feel now? You know, is it better?" And she's like, "Oh, it's so much better. It's so much quieter." It hadn't changed anything other than EQing the master fader because I hadn't tuned the system well enough yet. So that's it. And it's not as exciting as a lot of people would try and sell you. But if you have solid source tones, you have a decent PA in a decently treated room with low stage volume, you do minimal EQ and compression with good effects, and then you ride the faders with the band and just have a solid balance, that's it. You are going to have a pro mix. There is no trick to this. You can do it right now with the tools that you have. So I hope this has been helpful. Hit the link in the description for my reverb cheat sheet if you want to learn more about the effects that I like to use. And, you know, like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff, and I will see you guys in the next one.